Hello, welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. We are here for the Irish abroad. A lot happening this week in Irish football, and I suppose just to start off with, Tom, you are just back from Shamrock Rovers to Shelbourne nil in Tallaght Stadium. Talk to me about that game, the atmosphere, and obviously what the ramifications are for that result now for Shamrock Rovers right back into contention for the title race.
Yeah, as you know, that was a huge game in terms of how the title's going to play out this season. Shells have been the front runners all year, really, and kind of been a two-horse race between them and Derry City. But the last couple of weeks, Rovers have come right back into the fold, as we probably should have expected. And yeah, 2-0 Rovers in the end. It was actually ended up being pretty comfortable. I know Damien Duff came out after saying that he thought they were right in it, and if Pauls didn't make the kind of saves that he did make, then it could have been a completely different game. And I suppose he's right, but I kind of felt watching it in the stadium that Rovers were fairly, dominant throughout the game. Really, Shells had a bit of a go at the end of the first half, but I thought they kept the ball pretty well and scored two nice goals. And yeah, it's continues their sort of momentum that they've been on recently. I know they lost the Pats there, so the Shells, but before that, they've been on a serious run themselves, and even the draw in Europe against Applewell, they've taken serious confidence out of that. So, as much as it pains me to say it, it seems like they're kind of right back in the mix now. They're 2 points off the top and second in the table. So, we'll see how things play out.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the game at home. And it did seem like Shamrock Rovers were going to be too strong, considering you look at the squads and even what Shamrock Rovers were able to do with the bench and bringing players off the bench, the likes of Graham Burke and stuff like that, to help them win the game. And that's why they've always been thereabouts in the title race for the last 5 or 6 years, because purely down to the squad and experience they have in winning leagues and so on, and they're just so good at it. And I wouldn't be surprised now if they can continue their form for the next 3 or 4 games and go on to win the league, because I do think of all the title contenders that they have the more kind of favourable run in the last kind of final games, because I know that Derry have to play both Shells and Derry, and St. Pat's in the run in, and I think that's going to be a tough test for Derry in that respect. And I think Shells will go up and frustrate Derry no matter what they do. So I think that it's kind of set up for Shamrock Rovers to have a dramatic last gasp attempt. And obviously they'll be able to kind of, even if they have players maybe that are just coming through fitness, they'll obviously have the European games in between to maybe give some of those players the fitness that they may require. So it's probably coming a welcome time for them. So I do think that it's probably Shamrock Rovers' title to lose now. In saying that, and they go and have a result like they did against Pats a few weeks ago, then they'll definitely be out of the title race at this stage. But you just never know, because the way the league is kind of shaping up lately, it's just nothing is really a surprise anymore, is it?
No, it seemed like for a while that no one really wanted to win the title. Shells and Rovers losing in the same week to Pats. Uh, we might get onto it, but Pat's making a really late run for Europe. But yeah, it actually is in Derry's hands right now. If you look at the table, they've got two games in hand, and
Yeah, but I just
look,
think the fixtures aren't favourable to Derry at the moment, in my opinion.
no, I'd agree. And even at that, I wouldn't really trust Derry to get it done in the big game. I know they won against Bows in the semi final there, but it feels like anytime they come up in a big game, they just never seem to produce. Versus a Rovers who, like we seen tonight, uh, made actually a game that on paper would be seriously tough one look fairly comfortable in the end. And I'd probably agree with you now. If I had to put money on it, I'd say Rovers are going to do it. But it is still Shells at the top of the table. But I think for the neutrals point of view, we all kind of were looking at that Derry Shells game at the end of the season as kind of a League Cup final almost. But I don't know. I kind of feel like Rovers are going to do it now.
Yeah, it seems to be that is the way, and it's still mad to see teams like Galway are still in the title race, so you can't actually count them out. But I suppose just onto the kind of Irish abroad story this week. I mean, the big kind of story is Tom Cannon scoring the 4 goals the night before the squad was announced for Ireland. Hamer did kind of name check Tom Cannon, and he did say that the reason why he wasn't picked was basically he's on the standby list, but at the same time he also the squad was already picked before he'd scored them goals, so it wasn't a case of just he left them out. The squad was already picked before those goals, and I'm sure phone calls would have been made. But he did score 4 goals. Andrew Moran also getting amongst the score sheet and assists there as well in that game, and Mark O'Mahony scoring, which made it 2 goals in 2 games because he scored again yesterday for Portsmouth. So he's in a good run of form, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in an Ireland squad before the this side of the year. Anyway, I think he could be into the next squad if he continues his form. But there's a lot of Irish players in form this week, and Michael Obafemi was back amongst the goals for Plymouth. Sorry, in a 2-1 win for Plymouth over Blackburn, and I'm sure the Burnley fans who obviously Obafemi's on loan from Burnley, they would have liked that because they're big rivals there against Blackburn. So he went there. He scored two. He scored in a 2-1 win there for Plymouth. James McLean got 2 goals for Wrexham as well in League Two. Alan Brown got amongst the score sheet as well in the Premier League. Nathan Collins was scoring as well for Brentford in a 5-3 win over his former side Wolves. And Luke McNally scoring for Bristol City. Emmanuel Adebayoga scoring in a 1-0 win for Dundee United over St Mirren, and Dara Costello getting a double for Accrington Stanley against Morecambe. Jamie McGrath getting an assist for Aberdeen to add to his kind of assist tally so far this season, and why he was back in the Ireland squad. And Hamer also went on to speak about him and Mark McGuinness kind of being 2 players that have stood out. So I suppose that's a lot to take in and digest. But from your point of view, what were you impressed with this week from an Irish point of view?
Yeah, definitely Tom Cannon being the big story. Like 6 goals from Irish players in one game is a bit mad to see. But if you go back, if anyone who hasn't seen them, you should go back and watch the Tom Cannon goals because it's actually really good 4 goals. They're not just 4 tap-ins. There was one penalty in there, but the other 3 were some serious goals. And then, as you say, Andrew Moran as well on the score sheet. Uh, like you say, it's great to see like such a prospect that kind of underage level, like actually that translate into the senior team. And I'd agree, yeah, I'd hope to see him in an actual Irish senior team shirt soon. But yeah, Tom Cannon really unlucky probably just to have this match come just after the squad announcement. But I would say him being on standby, I wouldn't be surprised if he does get drafted in. He's probably just unlucky that, it's Ida, Ferguson and Parrott and Smodics in the team in front of him. We actually have got pretty decent depth at striker. And Tom Cannon, like I actually am really impressed at him just in general as a player. Like I remember his first game for Ireland against Portugal when he came in. I know the game was kind of over at that stage, but he did impress me in the little cameo that he had then. So I'd love to see him, end up back in the Ireland squad eventually.
Yeah, I think he will get back there. I think if anything happens this week now, he could be drafted in, or if anything happens after the Finland game, he could be brought in. So I wouldn't say like hope is lost on him not getting into the squad. I think he will get kind of there soon enough. It's not a case of he was kind of pushed out or anything like that. I think what's the fact of the matter is we actually have players who are in form now, and it's great that Irish players are actually showing a bit of form, and hopefully some of them can take it into the next, or sorry, not into the next camp, but into the camp. Like you look at Smolix had a really good season last year from a really good start, and now he's kind of like the main man. Evan Ferguson was scoring goals the year before last. He was the main man. Troy Parrott scored a few goals there recently for AZ. And I think that he'll be looking to be in the squad. So we have players that are in form. So it's not really players kind of coming in and we're going, oh well, he might work there, he mightn't. I think you'll see a case of if it is 2 strikers that we go with, I'd say what Hamer will probably do is either go Ferguson with Troy or Ida with Smodics, because they're kind of similar in that sense, if you get me. Like Troy is very similar to Sammy Smodics, and he said that in his press conference. So I don't see the two of them playing together, because it just wouldn't make sense to have 2 players who kind of want to play off the shoulder in the same role. That's why I think you'd have like an Ida playing off, or say a Parrott playing off an Ida, or a Ferguson playing off a Smodics or something like that. I think Ida and Smodics hasn't really worked well in the last few games that they kind of put them together. So why not mix it up and maybe play Ferguson and Troy and see how that goes. But I do think that Sammy will be unfairly, I suppose, dropped if that's the case, because I think Sammy's done all right for Ireland. He's just not really been played in the position that you would imagine that he wanted to kind of be, as maybe the main striker who's able to kind of get on the end of crosses or through balls in behind, which is we've seen for both Blackburn and now Ipswich. Obviously, there's a goal against Man City that's kind of where he's brilliant at kind of running in, and in one-on-one situations he's quite cool and calm. Troy is a bit like that as well, you would say. Um, and Ida's kind of a bit similar like that as well. He likes to kind of get in behind the defenders, one-on-one situations with the keeper, and more often than not scores as well. But the problem is we don't have that player who plays that pass to them in the midfield, and then that's where we're really lacking, is that kind of creative player. And you spoke about Andrew Moore earlier, obviously being the man who assisted. He's going to be big for the under-21s. They have a huge game in Cork against Norway on Friday as well. 6:30 kick-off down there. So there's a lot really going on this week in terms of the international football and the international break, that I think Irish fans will be excited as well, because we have the Finland game coming up this week. This is a chance for us to really show that we actually want to start getting points on the board, and we can actually beat teams. Like, I'd be very disappointed if we don't come out of this window with at least 4 points. I think anything else is it's just, I wouldn't say not acceptable, but it's just not good enough. When you look at the squad now, I think because we've got goal scorers in there now, and they'd be probably at a much higher level of the Finnish players. I know Finland beat us last time we played them through a mistake from Dan Randolph, which led to them scoring. But kind of watch that goal back again. You can kind of see Matt Doherty back to his old tricks of just walking back. Now we know he's been taken out of the squad by Hamer. He said he called him and he said he wasn't happy. What is your feelings about this? Because I think you'd kind of mentioned already that he's not been pulling his weight, in my opinion. Before you go on and give yours, I just think that it's about time the players kind of got pulled up, and can't be taking the Irish team for granted in terms of, if you get called up and something like that, you've got to perform. And I think that this is something that has been a long time coming, not just for Doherty, sorry, just in a general sense, is that a fair few players kind of come in and think that the shirt's there and that they don't really have to worry about it. And Seamus Coleman was taken out purely because he's been injured and he hasn't been playing for Everton. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Like Matt Doherty, just on merit, like on the performance, the last window, he just didn't perform at all in both games really, and was at fault for a couple of goals. And I do feel sorry for him in a way, just because I thought he was kind of singled out and after the last window. But look, he didn't perform, and so we need to tell the truth in that sort of way. So he didn't deserve to get in the squad. It'd be interesting now, just you know what he decides to do with the starting 11, whether Festi actually just slots right in that right wing back spot, or whether there's a change of shape. But yeah, I think Matt Doherty just hasn't performed for a long time really for Ireland, and I think there was a little bit of overreaction during the week on kind of, oh, how could you drop such a senior player and not even meet with him to say it. But I mean, this is just how it is. This is what international squads are. Like, there's competition for places, and maybe not as much competition as we want in those wing back positions. But I think it's about time that we kind of out with the old, in with the new. And Festi, is a really exciting prospect, and I'm hoping to see him kind of fill in that position this window.
Yeah, well, I think another option you could have went with Sykes as well. He's doing quite well at Bristol City. He's done all right when he's been in the Ireland squad previously. But I do kind of see what you're saying, and I do think it's it's frustrating for someone like Festi, who's kind of been in and around the Irish setup for the last couple of years now, and he's never really been given a role. And I remember watching him against France last year over in France, when we played there. I think we were beaten 2-0 in that game. I can't remember right now because I had a few points that night, but it could have been more maybe, but I think it was 2-0. Anyway, the fact of the matter is Festi came off the bench and he excited the fans because he kind of tried to get at the French defence. So the fact of the matter is he's brought out and trusted in a game against France. Why can't he be brought on and brought in and trusted in a game against Finland? And obviously he has a year's experience under his belt with Udinese in Serie A, coming up against really top class players week in, week out, and he was starting most games there. He's had a good start at Watford now, getting his goal there last week, and that kind of earned him his call up. And I think we need to be start looking at these types of kind of really fast type players, and trying to get them into the squad and giving them opportunities, because I do think we've been starved of pace in those wing back positions, and I think it's really cost us in recent times. And you have someone like Festi there on the right that kind of solves that problem, and he's worked on his defensive game as well. So, he spoke in an interview with the Watford social media team after that game where he scored, and he kind of was going on about how he loves playing as a wing back in teams that keep the ball, and he gets to attack a lot. So if he could be one of the players who's allowed to attack and get at people, then I see no problem in letting the shackles off him, and hopefully letting him kind of get involved. Because if you've got Robbie Brady on the other side there, then you're looking at that and going, right, well, if Brady's there, then we must have to get like a counteract that. So if Brady's not going to get high, let Festi get high to compensate for that, and then we stay defensively in our shape. I mean, we don't really need to worry defensively about our centre backs. I think they're all kind of at a similar level, like class Jake O'Brien in that as well, with the likes of Collins and Darrow O'Shea, Omobama Deli, and these types of players. I think they're all at a very similar level. And then you've got Mark McGuinness now who's come in for O'Brien in that sense. So it'd be interesting to see, can he make the step up to the senior team? Will he play? And will he start any of the games? Because he did say that he wanted to experiment with different players. So it's going to be a really interesting window, I think, this one. And look, if we go out and lose and he's tried some of the new players to give them a run, then I will say, okay, fair enough. But if he's going to go out and continuously play the same sort of players and hope for the same results, and we don't come out of it with anything, then I think he's got, there's going to be questions that need to be answered there in terms of where are we going to start improving, when are we going to be better, because we've got Finland at home then next month, and we've got England away, and there's a good chance we could be embarrassed in the England away game as well.
Yeah, like I know we criticised Hamer after the last squad. It was quite clearly John O'Shea's squad that he picked, and they kind of said as much as well. But I think he's kind of put his own mark on this squad. I think it's 6 changes, I believe, to the squad from last time, and we'll wait and see like what if it's the same shape or if he sticks with the kind of similar setup that we had in the last window. But I'll be interested to see now. I think we can really judge him based on these 2 games. Look, I know they're both away and they're not going to be easy, but I think Greece, we spoke about before in the last window, like it didn't look like it on the pitch, but in my opinion, we should be at a similar level just based on kind of quality of player with Greece. And then Finland, I think we should be looking to actually go out and win that match. But both 2 difficult games away from home, but as I say, like these are 2 games that we can really judge him on. Like I think this is definitely going to be his squad. This isn't like John O'Shea's squad. There's no kind of passing the buck with this one. So it'll be interesting to see, because, I'm happy that he's kind of made a few changes, because I did think I was kind of frustrated as well that seeing it was such a similar squad to that John O'Shea had picked, and even the starting 11s were very similar. So I'm hoping to see something a bit different this time.
Yeah, well, that's the hope, I suppose. We're going to have a lot more on the international stuff this week. I'm going to be over in Finland and going over on Tuesday, so we will have a lot more on that. We'll have previews, we'll have starting 11 shows, we might have some opposition preview. I need to actually get on that as well, so there'll be lots to talk about on that. But don't think there's too much else on our agenda should be discussed, other than the fact that there's a lot of Irish strikers, especially young strikers, on the score sheet this week, which is what we want to see. And a few centre backs there, Luke McNally again on the score sheet for Bristol City. So yeah, I think that is it. Not too many joined us in the comments tonight, but maybe they'll be back again next week. We'll have plenty of content going out, as I said, so don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can follow myself at Paul Neal 90 on social media, and Tom is at Tom_Healy__. And yeah, you can follow us there. We will speak to you all soon. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll talk.